I see nodding. That's very
Yes.
good.
Yes.
We just, a few minutes ago, we had a few problems that it was hanging from time to time. So if you cannot hear me or something weird, I try to realize this. So then welcome everybody to the next practical session. It will be your first behavior experiment. And I will show you a very classic spatial learning paradigm, which is the Morris Water Maze, named after Richard Morris, who designed the task in 1979, if I remember correct. And yeah, I will tell you a bit about it. The logic of this session now is that you have just learned something about neuronal networks and how they can encode different features of space, and how even different cells can be assigned different features, and yeah, how they contribute to the spatial map. And if we want to study this, then it makes a lot of sense to think about when we want to understand how different cells contribute to spatial memory and to navigation. It makes a lot of sense to uh, design a task in which a spatial map must be formed and used so that the animal can perform this task. And then we can track the behavior during the task and maybe correlate the behavior to firing, for example, maybe not firing in the water maze, because electricity and water, I don't have to explain that this is not the best idea. But we have other methods with which we can target engrams and networks in order to understand and manipulate them. And the idea now is that I tell you a few principles about how the water maze works. Then I will show you the software that we use to design the task and to analyze this task. So I will just show you. This software is called IthoVision, and you just have to watch it, because for me it will be very practical. I will show you exactly how we design it, everything. And then the software gives us some behavioral data, and you will get, or you already have it actually, an Excel file with all the raw data exactly the way we get it from the software. And then your task will be to make sense out of this, to make some plots to see if the animal has learned and formed a spatial map. So the first bit is about the spatial learning itself. I have already said it, that a neuronal engram is used, as you have seen, to form the spatial map, and this spatial map can be used to navigate. It's very simple, and the task that we do here is the Morris Water Maze. And this task works in a way that the animal swims in a large pool, which is about 1.5 meters, and there is milky water in this pool where the animal swims. And the critical part is that there is a little platform. You can see it here. There's a platform roughly of the size of the animal. And this platform can be used by that animal to escape. I mean, rats and also mice, they swim, they are perfectly fine swimming, but still they like to escape on that platform, to sit there. And it is the critical point of that experiment is that this platform is submerged roughly 1 thumb deep into, like, below the surface of the water. And since it's milky water, the animal cannot see the platform while it is swimming. So in order to locate itself in the environment and to locate the platform, we give these cues. They are distal cues. They are around the platform, and they can be used by the animal to form a spatial map of the environment. And we do it actually exactly the way I show it here. So we put, like, huge, it's just a sheet of paper in these different shapes, and then they use these 3 cues are enough to triangulate your position in space and to create a map. And Yeah, you can imagine that this is quite a difficult task for a mouse or a rat to do this. It's a complex trial and error learning. We also call this incremental learning. So it's a slow step-by-step increase in the performance and the learning in order to master this task in the end. And yeah, it involves many trials. And we usually design it in a way, at least for mice, that we do 4 trials per day over the course of 7 to 9 days until they are really, really good in this task. And what is important is that on the very first day, the 4 trials, then we give a visible platform to the mice because the task is really difficult. So on the first day, they just have to learn that somewhere in their pool, in the pool, there is a platform where they can escape. But this does not involve any spatial information, nothing. They see the platform, they go there. But this is very critical that they learn the whole thing. And then these, from the second day onwards, the 4 trials with the happen with this invisible platform. And when we do the 4 trials every day, what we have to consider is that we put the mice in different locations into the arena. This is really critical. So I have already marked it out here a little bit. You see that there are different zones that I have highlighted that are helping us to define the behavior a bit, but we also like to use it because like this, we have like 4 entry points that we can use every day. Like we can put the mouse here or here or here or here. And that we do every day. We use all these 4 entry points, but we randomize the order. And this is very, very important because if we would just put the animal in here, for example, here, then it would not form any kind of a spatial map of the environment, but it would just learn, okay, I'm here, I swim a little bit of an arc, and then I'm on the platform. Or sometimes they do nice little circles, something like this, and they do this in a very stereotyped way. So they are using an egocentric navigation instead of forming an allocentric map of the environment. So mice are just like humans. They like shortcuts in when they have to learn something. So when there's an easier way, they do the easier way. Yeah, and something else that we do is that we put the animal inside in a way that it is facing the wall. So whenever we put inside, it first has to turn around, orient itself in space, and then it goes to the platform. This also helps to see how they perform, actually, what they learn, to make it more even, like across animals. So this is the basic idea. Are there any questions about the basic principle of the task? Because if not, then I show you what we can analyze. During the learning procedure, we can already follow a few things to see if the mouse or the rat is learning something. And the very logic thing you see here on the left, we can just look at how many times of the trials they're actually finding the platform. So in the beginning here, day 1 is the visible platform. You see that they get better in each trial. They are more successful to actually finding the platform. And already on day 3, 4, they are pretty good. And they almost in every trial, they know where the platform is and they find it. And the other version is the most common version to plot the water maze data is the escape latency that is here shown in red, where you can see how long it takes the animal in each trial to find the platform. And there you can see that we are averaging every day all the 4 trials because we put them into the pool in different locations. It's very obvious that when we put them far away from the platform, it takes them a bit longer, or it can take them a bit longer than when we put them in there very close to the platform. So we're averaging all 4 trials per day to get the escape latency. And you see how they are getting better and better and better every day. And they are much faster every day to find the platform. But when we just look at the latency, we still do not know if the mouse is actually using a spatial map to do the task. So to get a first idea that maybe a spatial map is getting formed that they use to do the task, we can look at different strategies. So we look at the tracking of the mouse, at the traces, how they swim towards the platform, and that can already give us an idea. So in the beginning, you see that they sometimes do something like this, that they're going along the wall because they like to escape. Or they do some random swimming and by accident they bump into the platform. And when they get better and better, you see that scanning is already something that could be spatial, because they they scan big areas of the pool where they have an idea to maybe find the platform. And then they get better and better and better, and you see that they up to a path where they swim directly to the platform. They know where it is and they just go there. But they can also do things like chaining here, which is really, really tricky, because there they do not learn anything spatial except for the fact of the distance that the platform has from the wall. And then they just circle. This is not a global spatial strategy. And they can be super good in this without learning anything about the spatial map or the spatial environment in which they're in. So the question is, how do we actually test if they have formed a spatial map of the environment? Does anybody have an idea? It's
if you change the cues that you give the mice to find the platform, they cannot find the platform again, then they probably have learned what the cues mean and now search for the platform based on it.
Exactly, that would be something that is also something that people test. But then this is something they use rather in other strategies, because you can also imagine that you can change the cues, or you can change anything in the environment to see if then they go somewhere else. So this would be one option that is absolutely correct. But what we can also do, what is much more simple, is that we just remove the platform. And this is called a probe trial. So we just take out the platform, and then we look at how much time the animal spends in the area where the platform was. So we leave the animal there for about a minute, and then it searches for the platform. And when it's very sure, because it knows exactly where the platform is, it stays in this location. And then it's basically, as you can see, it's circling around this area and tries to find the platform there. And this we can measure how much of the total time the mouse spends then in this quadrant. And you can see that it's actually quite persistent in what it tries to, that it tries to find the platform there. And when the task is too easy, as I already mentioned, when you put them inside, always at the same spot, when it's the visible platform, and even when you make the platform like this, it's just that the diameter is doubled, and that is already enough that it's so big for the mouse that they do not need to use any spatial strategy. They are just happy with randomly bumping into the platform, that they do not form any kind of a spatial environment. So the task has to be designed very carefully so that they really form that spatial map. Yeah, so that is the whole thing about the introduction. Are there any questions so far? Because if not, then we will go to the design of the experiment, how we do this. I will take you through this. So the point is, I show you how we design the experiment and take you through it step by step, so that you have an idea where the data comes from that you have in your Excel file. So then I go there, I stop sharing this, and instead I share this. Can you see it? Yeah. Perfect. So now we are in EthoVision. This is the software that we use. And I just create a completely new experiment. We name this whatever. And so we're here. And the basic idea is that at first we set up here in the setup phase, we design the experiment the way we want it to be. That means we design where the animal is in with the arena. We design how we want, or what we want to track, when we want to track the animal, and that we detect the animal. Then we acquire the data, and that will be very short because we already have the videos ready. And then we analyze the data. So we want to get numbers out of the tracking. We analyze the behavior. And there we have to define the parameters that we want to analyze. So I will take you through this. At first, experiment settings, we only have to think about, okay, now we get a video, and otherwise we would do live tracking of the animal in the pool. But of course, we have videos right now, so we don't need to care about anything else. Manual scoring, we don't do. We want to automate something. So the first thing we have to do is set an arena. And for the arena, so I have to define this. And of course, I have already the video that I want to use. And when the mouse is, or the rat is not in the pool, it's a perfect background image. So we use this arena. You see the pool, there's nobody inside. So we just use this. Beautiful, we make this a bit bigger. So this is the pool and here is the platform. And now first we have to calibrate it. It already says it. I know that the pool is, how big the pool is. It's 150 in this example. Beautiful. Then we can design the arena where the mouse will be. Up. I can already define how many quadrants. Why is it doing this? Okay. Wait. Delete. Why did it do this? Give me this. Okay. Of course, it always does weird things when you have to show it. So, this is the arena. Beautiful. So we have this. Click. Why does it not do this? So this is an example. I don't like this. Why does it go wrong when I want to explain it? Zone group. So then we add them like this. 2 by 2 should be correct. Hop. Good, beautiful. So we have added this. We can also rename this. This is northwest. Northeast. Southeast. And southwest. Target zone. Good, this is this. And plus, we want to add another little zone, which is our platform. So, this is roughly it. And with this, we have validated it. So now we have our system ready. We know where the animal should be. And we have to define now when we want to track everything. And for this, we have to change it a little bit. So we have to decide when the tracking should start and when it should stop. And for this, that we do not get any kind of strange artifacts, we decide we want to start the tracking when the mouse is in the pool. And to be correct, because we are always putting it inside, we still have our hand inside, maybe we're not so fast. And also we have decided that the animal first has to turn around before we start the tracking. And like this, we say that the mouse is, for example, or the rat is in the pool for 2 seconds, and then we start the tracking. And we also want to define something else. We want to define that we stop the tracking when the mouse is on the platform. Up, when it's on the platform. Can you see what I'm doing? For 2 seconds. Up. So the whole point is that now if we have designed it like this, we know that the mouse is in the pool when we start the tracking, then it tracks the mouse the whole time it's in the pool, and we can be sure that when it's for 2 seconds on the platform, it's really has found it and is sitting there, because otherwise it could also just bump into it and then swim away. Because you can imagine if you touch something under the water that you cannot see, your first intention is not to just stop and stand on it. So the mouse has to really learn this. And like that, we are getting the perfect learning when it knows what to do. So these are the control settings. Now we need to get a tracking of the animal itself. So you see that at the moment, everything that is in yellow is what we are tracking. So we don't want to track the pool, we want to track the animal. So like this, we have to define something. And I'm not going through everything. We do static subtraction. So we define a background, and then everything that is not the background, which will be the mouse that moves, we will track. And that we define like this. We decide on a background, which is already nice because we do not have the mouse inside. And then we have the video running here. When I show you how the video starts, we see now this is a red, it's white. So we have decided here the mouse is brighter than our pool. And now we can play around with the contrast to say, okay, what do I like? I don't want it like this, but I want to track the animal. So maybe something like that looks nice. I can see how the mouse is swimming now in the pool and maybe finds the platform. And then when it's on the platform, and yeah, now it's sitting there. And we are tracking everything with the center point. So this is something that we can then see what we define. So we are happy with the tracking of the animal. And then we can already define what we want to give as an input. And I have already prepared these things. So I know that I have 7 videos for you. This is, unfortunately, I have to put all of them individually in here. These are the trials. You have to imagine that each of these, usually you do this online. So now you would put the mouse into the pool and it would swim. You can watch it swim. And yeah, but now we use videos. We define that the area we have decided where we want to track, the trial control setting, when the tracking happens, and we want to detect the animal. And we, of course, want to do the same for all videos because we want it to be comparable. And with this, we are set. Now, as I said, we can put the mouse into the pool. We would say here, we are ready to start. And in our case, when we have videos, this is super fast. I demonstrate, the computer is super fast. And yeah, and now I speed this up. I say, please run all the different videos. And now the software tracks mice in all videos that I have put in there. So, and with this, now we can see how good I put everything, all the parameters inside. So we can look at, for example, trial number 1, how good my tracking is. So we just start this. And then we see the mouse, and we see that now after 2 seconds, the tracking starts, and in red, we can follow how the tracking looks like. And if the mouse finds it, and then when it sits for 2 seconds on the platform, it should end. So it looks like I did a pretty good job. We can try another video, maybe number 6. After 2 seconds, it should start. And then, yeah, it's swimming around. So you can imagine this, how this looks like. And what I would do now is that I would check how actually everything worked out. So we go to track visualization so that we're not blindly using everything without knowing how it looks like. So I can show you, can I make, no, I cannot. So you should be able to see all the 7 videos that I put in here. And now we can actually follow all of them at the same time and look at the tracking. So it gives us the arena background, and you can see that it stops exactly the way I have defined it when the animal is on the platform. And now you can watch the animal do things. You can see that they are almost all done. And what you should realize now is that I gave you 6 videos in which the animal is learning. So, yeah, and one, oh, this is unfortunate. I should have put the whole track because, yeah, wait, I speed this up. No, I do not. Oh, well. So the point is that you should realize that 6 of these videos are from the learning curve. So they are showing mice that are looking for the platform. And one video is a bit different because this is a probe trial in which the platform is removed and the mouse is, I mean, in this case, as you might guess, it's already pretty good and it's looking for the platform but cannot find it. And to distinguish these is very important for the task that you have to do, because you don't want to plot this one video in your latency curve. It makes no sense, obviously. Yeah, and you can also look at it with heat maps, for example, like this. You can see where the animal is. And what I wanted to point out here is that when you look at these videos, it's already pretty clear that here, for example, it plots everything. And when the mouse is very good, you see, okay, here's obviously the platform, because we have included in our analysis, or not in the analysis, but in the tracking that we did, the last 2 seconds. So maybe the last 2 seconds are not so good for us to analyze something because maybe they are destroying our data. So now when we analyze something, we might need a bit different paradigms to analyze everything or set our parameters in a bit different way. So what I decided to do is that we first have to define now what of these tracks we want to use to analyze our data. And I think a good way of doing it is to say, okay, maybe I do not want to include, wait, in zone, I can say, for example, when the mouse is on the platform, do not include this. Up. So now we have excluded the time in the end in our analysis in which the mouse is on the platform, or the red. And now we can decide what exactly do we want to know. We have our tracking, and now we want to analyze something. So what do we need? Of course, it would be interesting to know, like, these are the 2 parameters it always gives us. The distance moved could be very interesting, because when we know that it took, it was swimming in there maybe for a longer time and it moved a huge distance, that this mouse was not very good in the task. We also always get the velocity. This could maybe be interesting, but we definitely want to know the latency. So we want to know how long was the mouse in the pool. And this we can define now. These are all the different variables that we can select. So we can actually analyze a lot. We have to decide what we want to analyze. And how we do the latency is that we say here in the zone, in the arena, and we can say how much time for each, no, when in all the selected zones does not matter because it's just one. And we decide we want to know the cumulative duration. And now it says to us how many seconds the mouse was, or the rat was, in the arena. And this, in your file that I gave to you, I called this latency. And so when we know this, we can already plot latency curves, basically. So this is one point that you have in your Excel file later. Then there could be other things that are maybe interesting. For example, how many times is the mouse in the, I always say mouse, but in the video it's a rat, but it can be used for both. We can say, for example, here, this is our target zone. how often is the mouse in the target zone or revisits the target zone. This could be interesting. Let's see what it says. Frequency. Yeah, that is correct. So now we get the number of visits that it is in this target zone. Or what I thought what could be interesting is how it is swimming towards the pool. So heading to a point here, because this is interesting to see if it was a very good performer, how much it swims towards the pool. So we have our point of interest is the platform. And then we can say, give us the mean value. But I mean, this could be interesting, but I can already tell you that it is designed in a way that the point of interest is 0. And when the mouse swims on the right side or the left side in a certain angle around the platform, it gives us positive and negative values. So it could be the mouse swims like this, or whatever, 90 degrees in the other one, and you average it, it could be 0, but the mouse has not learned anything, maybe. So you can try to figure this out. But I thought it could be also interesting to say, okay, we define what it is heading to the platform, and we say if it's within a range of whatever. I thought 30 degrees could, maybe I played around a little bit, what could make sense, and then say, what is the time of the total trial that the mouse is in this range? And I can show you how you, because this is also in your file then, heading to point, that it swims towards the platform up with less than 30 degrees, okay? But we also have to add heading to point, platform up with more than -30. Okay, so now we get in seconds how much of the total trial it swims roughly in an angle like that towards the platform. So maybe this is more informative, but that's something you will plot then to figure this out, what is actually more informative about the behavior. And the last thing that is interesting for the prop trial is how much time the animal spends in each of the different quadrants. So we pick all of the different quadrants, and then we say how much time I left in there, the percentage and the seconds. And with this, we're basically done. So now we can go to statistics. It looks like this. And I calculate. Beautiful. And now I get a lot of numbers that you will have in your Excel file. You will have the distance moved in each of the trial, the velocity, the latency to the platform, the target visits, heading to point. This here I would like to point out. Can you see these numbers here? They can be negative and they can be positive, because they can go left or right of the platform. But this positive and negative does not mean anything. So in your data file, I just left only positive numbers inside so that it's easier for you to plot, so that you're not getting confused with positive and negative numbers. Left and right basically does not mean a lot. Yeah, and then you will have the different cumulative durations for the different quadrants. And yeah, this is something you will analyze. And in the end, what I always do is that I check if actually what I have defined is correct. And this is the last step of things that I want to show you, that I see the mouse in the pool and I can make it go. Actually, wait, we make this a little bit. So now we see the whole video, and we see, can we see this? Nope. Yeah. No, I cannot show you more than the video gets smaller and smaller, maybe like this. And so on my screen, it looks weird too. So I can see what the mouse does. Can I not make, it's weird. I can follow the mouse basically, and at the same time I can see what my parameters are that I have tracked. So for example, I can see here the velocity here. And when the mouse is swimming, I can see, oh, when it does this straight line, it's very fast. So I can actually follow if all the conditions, the parameters that I have set are correct. The latency is perfectly correct. You can also see that from 0 to the end here, this is the whole video. And I can only see in beautiful color what I have decided to track. And everything else here, the last 2 seconds, when the mouse is on the platform, I'm not counting in my analysis. So this I can see too. And this is actually very important when you look, for example, at the heading 2 point. You see that here it gives the 0 value is towards the platform. And you see that the mouse is pretty good. It swims towards the platform the whole time. When it's here doing this straight line, I can actually see that this is actually pretty good. And then it passes. And then it goes into this weird angle. And in the end, you see how much sense it makes to eliminate when it's on the platform, because now it reaches the platform and it continues to show your analysis. So here I have removed the last 2 seconds because, for example, for the heading angle, I would get a huge mess of data. So it's very important to eliminate this. And you can also see what I have defined here for my multi-conditions is when the mouse is swimming towards the platform. So in the end, you can just check, this is what I have defined here. It's swimming towards the platform, this whole track. And then this, I count like it's not swimming towards the platform. So, and here it's turning in the end, and then it swims again towards the platform. And you can also see here in the zones when the animal is in which zone. And this kind of thing you can now look at in all of your trials if you want to, and control the different settings, what the animal is doing. So here it seems, look at the heading angle, it does really weird things. The mouse is in all the different zones. So like this, I control all of the behavior if everything of the tracking is correct. And in the end, if I'm very happy with my tracking, now I go back to the statistics and I say, export the data. So export the data, can you see it? It's here. And then I use my Excel file and plot the data. And now this is up to you to plot the data. So you have, a little bit of time left, I think almost an hour, so that you can start working on this. Yeah, with the original data. It looks exactly like this. And if you have questions, of course, are there questions right now about the task? Does not seem like it. So then you can play with your Excel file numbers. I will definitely stay here. So if you have questions about how the software works or how behavior experiments are done anyway, all of that you can, of course, ask me. So I will stay in these.